What's up, everybody? Welcome to Respect Our Authoritah, Wisecrack South Park podcast.
Respect my Authoritah!
My name is Jared, and I'm joined here with the Respect Our Authoritah crew. We got Amanda.
Hey.
And Lux. And Ryan screwed up. He was supposed to bring his audio equipment with him to wherever he is tonight, but he forgot. So in his stead, we have Jacob. What's up, man?
I'm hardly the same thing, but, you know, Ryan's got no integrity.
We're glad to have you. Yeah, he really fucked up on the integrity. So it's that time of year again. South Park, Season 23, Episode 1, Mexican Joker. I was reflecting on why South Park is so special, and I kind of came to the conclusion that South Park is, like, in a sense, early YouTube, in that I feel like it's Trey Parker's vlog.
Yeah, he can just say whatever the hell he wants.
He just tells us whatever's on his mind, makes some funny jokes, and it's just a foray into one man's mind.
And he works like most YouTubers, just gets a video out in a week and just sort of crams it out.
That's
and
right.
I have insider scoop knowledge. This is insider news.
Oh.
Speaking of leaks in the government, I got a leak that there's they signed on for 3 more years. So we have 3 more years after this, which is good.
That actually just came out.
Oh, good.
Like an hour ago.
Well, I got it a couple weeks ago, so I was waiting for the podcast. But
So
we have
much integrity. All
so
right.
much, we have more Trey Parker vlog for 3 more years at least.
Anyway, so today we're breaking down Season 23, Episode 1, Mexican Joker. As is custom with this podcast, I'm going to go around and guess what everyone's going to give this. I'm going to guess that Amanda is going to give it a B+. I'm going to guess that Jacob is going to give it a B. And I'm going to guess that Lux is going to give it an A-. How did I do? Let's start backwards with Lux.
Yeah, it's about right, like a B+, A-. I liked almost all of it except for one recurring bit that we can talk about later that I thought didn't make any sense and wasn't funny.
Okay, cool. Jacob, how'd I do?
I was gonna say solid B, and I hate being guessed at. Like I hate that being so predictable. But look, we got Tegrity, we got Randy, we got another season of South Park, we got Towley. I'm just happy. But yeah, we got a lot of good stuff. So like I'm happy. But yeah, I could probably a solid B. Yeah, I'm just happy that the season's back.
Yeah,
whatever that counts for.
I'm actually right with Jacob on the solid B, but it might be unfair because to like gauge how I was going to grade it, I rewatched Sons of Witches from last season right after to like give myself just like a barometer of good South Park. And so in comparison, it's a B.
Yeah, Jack and Crack. That was probably I laughed the most.
Yeah, I think that was the
that
funniest
episode of
in
that
like
season.
years,
Yeah,
for sure.
That's definitely a recent South Park highlight.
Yeah.
Treats or tricks.
So I was unfair.
I like this episode. I didn't find myself laughing as much as I did in the season premiere of last season. There were some funny moments, but I've also been going through the greatest hits. I've watched Imagination Land. I watched The F Word. I watched Eat, Pray, Queef. I watched some of the best South Park episodes I've been revisiting in preparation for the season restarting. So I feel a little bit spoiled, but I liked it. I would give it B, B-. But anyway, let's get into it. So first, a recap. Randy Integrity Farms is undergoing a crisis now that people are starting to grow their own weed. Meanwhile, Cartman is depressed that his generation inherited a broken world until he learns that he can call ice on any family he wants.
Ice Ice Baby.
So he calls ice on Kyle's family, and they separate the kids from their parents and take them to a detention center. Kyle tells the ICE workers that they're traumatizing children who will only grow to fear and hate the U.S. government, turning them into Mexican jokers. Not quite understanding the point, the ICE workers try to teach the kids forgiveness and give them electroshock therapy in order to keep them from turning into a Mexican joker.
Can't afford that.
After failing to convince the courts to prevent homegrown weed, MedMen approaches Randy for a merger, but Towley doesn't want to sell out and calls him a towel. So Randy opts instead to blow up the houses of all homegrowers, and it's blamed on Mexican Joker. Stan gets Cartman sent to the detention center, and Kyle figures out a plan to get everyone out, convert them all to Judaism. Confused, the main ICE worker kills the other officers in an effort to appease Mexican Joker, but then Kyle tells him there is no Mexican Joker, and he bails. End of episode.
So how long until MedMen sues
I
South
think,
Park?
Oh, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are they outside of California?
No, they're here. Oh, are they outside? Oh, I think no. They think they're only here.
Yeah.
And I like Tally's like they're posers. I took Jared to a MedMen.
Oh, wait, that's a real
Yeah,
company?
Oh, yeah.
It
It's
is.
an actual company.
Oh,
It's
I
like
thought
an
it was a
Apple
Mad
store
Men
of weed.
joke.
No,
No.
I mean,
the
the name of the
company is a
company
Madman joke, but it's a real company.
It's a
where
very
you...
slick, very fancy, very glossy weed store.
Yeah,
You been there?
I took my family
Yeah,
there.
it's definitely like a tourist attraction, but it's like an
This is
Apple
a
store for weed
personal
products.
Pet peeve, but I fucking hate slick, glossy weed shit. I like
Oh, for
my
sure.
weed shit to be like nasty boy, dirty town.
Yeah.
Also extremely
my
good,
dealer?
but I want it to be like grungy bullshit.
This is the opposite. They take like credit cards and it's very slick. You can
They're
tap
way
your
too
phone.
like eager to serve you. Also,
Yes.
like,
There are so many people who work there. There's one customer service agent for every customer there.
Yeah, it is a little overwhelming.
It's like the Apple Store
Yeah.
because they're basically it's a one-on-one sales meeting every time you want to buy weed.
Yeah, what do you want?
My dude
How
just
can I-
has
but your
a
dealer
truck
is a
and
Genius Bar member.
My dude just-
Exactly.
My dude just has a truck and a suitcase. And he just shows up to my house and opens up his suitcase and then leaves.
But that's avoiding taxes. You can't go down that road, Lux. The taxman.
Oh, well, I guess I'm in big trouble now. It's on wax.
All right, first thing I want to talk about is just the way that the ICE agents are characterized. There's some really funny parts. One, I like that the ICE raiders are all kind of fat. They are the kind of guys that seem like they play Call of Duty and love feeling like a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, real
And-
mall cop energy to all the ICE guys.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. You gotta have a clap sound effect for that.
Oh, yeah, where we go. Got you a golf clap there.
There you go. Thank you, Lux.
I also love when Kyle is trying to break it down to the agents. He says, you guys like superhero movies, right? And they're like, yeah. Like the guy is such a stooge.
Yeah. Let me play it in some way you guys are gonna get it.
Yeah.
It was very like banality of evil, kind of. I liked that they made them kind of lame instead of just making them like Nazis. It
Yeah.
made it a lot more interesting.
So
And
much
they
Hunter
straight
ran
up-
all over this episode, and I loved it.
They straight up say, we're just doing our job.
Yeah.
Just doing our job, trying to make America great again.
Yeah. Like why would you not love this? We're very noble.
Yeah, it was very like that Nazi experiment where like if you press the
Oh yeah, you just keep shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it felt it. There were definitely moments where they're just like, I'm just like a nice humble dude doing my
With a
job.
sock puppet.
I also felt like when some of the scenes were deliberately not funny. Like when the ICE raiders are raiding Kyle's
Yeah.
house.
The
it's
baby
just-
crying is
yeah,
very severe.
crying is severe, and it's just horrifying.
Yeah.
Well, but then you cut to Cartman. And
Yeah,
that was
eating
maybe my
chips.
biggest laugh of
Yeah.
the
I did
episode.
laugh. He's like,
Oh,
This is
that's
great.
nice.
What does he say? He's like just eating poops, and he's like, "Yeah, this is great." I also loved Randy. I mean, this is very off topic, but when we're doing that like Tegrity tour at the beginning,
That was
and
so
he's just
good.
like, he's like speaking in his new affected accent, but then he's like, "And just remember, we've kept our recipe simple."
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things. Go ahead, Lux.
Oh, just like that sets up that first scene's really great for me because it just sets up Randy as like such a like dude who's absolutely lost any trace of his integrity when he's just like giving the tour and he's like, remember, the people work for tips, and it's like, oh, instantly fuck you.
Give me a round of applause.
And then also he's like, give me a big hand or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's
just
also-
like real Gore the God Butcher kills all the gods and becomes a god himself type energy from Randy that I was very happy they established quickly.
There were also like Randy plush dolls behind him in the
saw
store.
that.
That was
Yep.
just like such a good artistic
Well, the joke
detail.
is that it's a douchey winery tour, right?
Right, it's
I've
like
never
a
been on
shitty
one.
brewery
You
tour
haven't?
or whatever.
No.
Well, like, yeah, like a winery tour meets like Disney kind of. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Sideways, like Frass Canyon, when they go to the big winery, like the really big one that has like the fountains and the gift shop, and like they're just like out of a fire hydrant, just like pouring out wine. I don't know if you remember that scene. But yeah, it's definitely playing up like that whole world. I went to one in Texas, in Fredericksburg, to a winery and wine tour, and it was like the whole thing. Like you had stops and stations, and you kept at every moment you could buy the glass, and you could buy the commemorative tote bag, and you could buy the basket.
They're that tacky. Wow.
Very, very. It's just shameless. But also, like in this, yeah, it's all about Tegrity, and clearly he's lost it all. Or he's masquerading as like it's like progress masqueraded as like this great product, but like it's just all very super commercial. And then of course he's unhinged now. He's threatened.
Yeah. So I have a theory as to how the A and B plots actually collide in a really interesting way. And by the way, before I get into this, I was actually approaching the season thinking, there's especially this time, there's always two big questions. One, are they going to talk about Trump at all? And two, are they going to try to make it well, I guess it's 3 questions. 2, are they going to try to make it serialized? And 3, are they going to try and be political? Are they going to try to function on the to comment on the zeitgeist, or are they just going to try and make silly episodes? And I was actually my guess was that they would probably be doing more of the third one, just trying to get back to pure silliness. But wow, they really actually went to one of the more sensitive topics to cover.
Yeah.
And it does seem like the next episode will probably have Kyle and Cartman still at the detention center. Mm-hmm. So
it didn't really end. There was no resolution. There was no breakout.
Yeah, which I mean, for like a one-off episode context, it felt messy. But you're right, in the context of like serialization, that could be interesting if they wake up and they're still there.
That would be cool. But this is a good time to talk about the thing that I think sucks about this episode. Those flashback jokes were ass.
Yeah.
Like, that was just straight up trash. Like, it wasn't funny. It didn't make any sense. It added nothing to what was going on. I just wanted to throw every second they were talking about flashbacks into the garbage.
It was only 2, right? Only 2 moments?
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes of my life I can't have back.
It definitely didn't make sense, but I liked it. Especially the joke about the electroshock therapy. Yeah, because
that one's fine without the other one.
It's just a great joke because electroshock therapy is something that is both something good, something potentially helpful, and something horrifying. So when they say, all right, we're going to try to make sure he's not the Mexican Joker, and then they start electroshocking him, and then they say, oh, wait, but what if this is in fact the pain that turns him into Mexican Joker, and then the other guy, not knowing what to do except try to heal him from this pain, just shocks him even more. I thought was a really clever joke.
Right, that bit's funny, but that doesn't have anything to do really with the idea of being in the flashback. And then at the end, when he's like wearing the flashback and he kills everyone, then he realizes he's not in the flashback, because what does any of this mean?
Yeah,
right.
He's just like, ugh! Like, just write an ending to your episode, dudes.
It was like a weird, like, sidestep meta thing.
Yeah,
it was a little bit of
really,
like a...
It was like, so much of this episode is like so tight and interesting and well written and creative, and that bit was just like so fucking useless to me.
I didn't mind it, but it did make no sense in a kind of, ow, my brain hurts kind of way, but I was able to just say, all right, brain, stop hurting. This is not supposed to make sense. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I get cranky when jokes aren't written well, and that was a poorly written joke, and it made me cranky.
But if I were to say what the kind of the subtext message of this episode is, if you contrast the A and B plots, I think it's this. So Randy becomes Mexican Joker in response to quote unquote injustices, i.e. the courts not making growing weed illegal. This is basically not an injustice, but he completely overreacts by becoming a terrorist. And I think what they're doing here is this is a commentary on how a lot of shooters are usually white people that are privileged compared to some people in detention camps or some minorities, and yet they're always thinking of themselves as the victim. So even though at the beginning we see that Randy has a super successful business.
He's a rich guy. He's got a huge plot of land. He's free. He's running his own company.
He owns the entire 420 Valley.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's peeved that his sales have gone slightly down. And so I think it's interesting to see how we see these people in the camps, and they've got some real problems, and then we've got Randy with very minor problems, and he decides to blow shit up.
And I think that's emphasized, that whole point, that contrast of the two plots is like really emphasized in the courtroom scene.
Yeah.
Because you've got this moment where Stan is a puppet fighting for the injustice of the world, and people growing, and no one's got integrity, and they shouldn't be allowed to grow for themselves. This is a completely superfluous problem, and then it completely cuts to real injustice and real human rights violations and issues, right?
Yeah.
And it's just wasting government's time, and this is what's actually making it into the courts, and this is what's being listened to, and this is what's being fought for.
Yeah. It's also, what really caught me was when the first ice raid we see was Randy calling it on Butters' dad.
Yeah.
Because it was, I feel like that directly comments on the way our fear of immigration is our fear,
The scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's just let's just foist it into this other problem.
Exactly.
But it's really our own fears. And then, of course, Randy's whole breakdown, and his whole craziness is, again, just that's the madness. And it's all in his own head and his own mind. And because he feels a little slighted by his sales dipping, as opposed to these kids who are really traumatized. And again, Kyle's making a great point. He's like, The one thing you can say about the episode that maybe is a little strange is that like he's saying, look, the real Joker comes out of some out of a random crazy person feeling a little slighted, not necessarily out of the injustice of this ICE program or whatever, or these detainment camps, but at the same time, ultimately, he's like, it's not the exact point. I'm not saying it's directly the issue, and you have a choice to make. You can make a choice, right? It's like there is the actions that you can do now to prevent this character's so-called Mexican Joker. But anyway, I just think like overall, it had a very clever contrast between those two pieces.
Yeah, I think it was really smart in that way of like explaining or sort of like isolating how like until the bad thing happens, we're all much or like the culture, or at least some parts of the culture, are much more scared of like brown children than they are of like white dudes with access to weapons until white dudes start using their weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is such a dumb thing. But the episode I thought
and then
did a
they
really
blamed
good job
grown-up
of kind of
brown
flagging
men.
that.
And everyone's there because of some fat, intolerant asshole didn't want them around. Me too.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
That was a
I
good
love
moment.
that.
To what Jacob was talking about at the courtroom, there's a great moment. It's the way that scene opens. Is Stan is saying something like, there are people who hurt. We have a broken system. People are suffering from it because people are growing their own weed.
Yeah.
You know, there's like that shift into where all of a sudden we realize that he's talking about something completely trivial.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very clever.
It's very like white people problems, like
real
problems, and like white people problems are what cause terrorism, not real problems.
Yeah, and I like how they have this whole sunny, optimistic 90s aesthetic when they're showing Integrity Farms. So first we have a whole new intro where it says starring Randy Marsh. It's very Too Many Cooks in a sense. And then when it comes back from commercial, we hear this kind of 90s music stinger outside of Integrity Farms that we haven't heard in a while, or we haven't really seen a lot of alterations on the main theme for the intro, and also coming in and out of commercials for a while. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the outro theme too.
You know, I was watching it on Sling, and it kept cutting it off before the end a little bit.
The cuts were really interesting. It was like right in the middle of like a real punch a joke.
So I didn't see how some of the final jokes before cut to commercial, I didn't actually end up seeing what they were.
That might have affected your view on things. There were some good outs
throughout
the
episode.
episode.
When Cartman gets to the detention center and starts singing, it cut off right before. What happens?
I think Cartman just gets there and starts singing,
Hard Knock
and
Life?
then
Yeah.
he talks
I think
to...
it just cuts there.
He pops up, he starts singing, Kyle takes the blanket and goes off to the wall and sits down, and then Cartman realizes that the reason Kyle's upset is because he's Jewish, and so this camp thing is extremely affecting to him.
Oh, no, I saw that part. I guess, I don't know if I only missed a couple seconds
I think actually
10 seconds.
I think we saw it all. I think the only piece I maybe didn't catch was he sang the outro song, because we basically just end with like, I'm the best towel you ever had, bitch, and then it just cuts to credits at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, and the
with
outro
Randy.
song over those credits, at least for on the Comedy Central stream, was just like, Tegrity, 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 Tegrity.
Oh,
I didn't catch that.
Which was
we didn't
very
get
weird,
that.
but I liked it.
Yeah. That's us experimenting with new ways to watch the episode.
Yeah, right. And I haven't watched commercials in a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's also the Godfather music playing after he blows up all the other weed growers, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I liked that. I really enjoyed the moment of the first guy getting blown up. I thought it was fucking excellent, where he's like looking at the plant and he's like, you want a regular size or a big fatty? And then it's just an explosion. His wife's just covered in blood.
I liked right before that. It's like, that was a great dinner, dear. You want to smoke a fatty and get baked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very into all that.
Yeah, between Jeff Corrigan, that's the character, the ice guy who has the puppets, like, he obviously kills his colleagues. Randy blows up the whole town. Like, obviously it's very clearly painted as like these white guys are definitely the terrorists here, and yet everyone's shitting their pants about Mexican Joker, including the newscaster who's just freaking out and bubbling over.
Yeah.
There's this part in the episode when Randy is in the car talking to Towley, and Randy says, fuck South Park, all I care about is Tegrity Farms, and Towley says, I don't think you want to say fuck South Park. Is there anything meta going on here?
I was going to ask you
there-
this.
Is Is that like saying like fuck America?
I don't, it's so weird watching some of these episodes. There seem to be times where it's even a single line where Trey seems to be showing what he's thinking at the moment. There was a time, I recently watched the episode where Stan becomes 10 years old. I think it was that one. I've been watching a lot lately. And he says something like, oh, I'm getting Trey essentially says, I'm getting a little bit sick of doing this. I need to take a left turn or something like that. And I think it was during that episode, it was him starting to think that maybe he would start making episodes that were a little more left-leaning than perhaps they were previously. And for this one, it was one of those things like, is this meta? Is it not? Is he saying that he wants to create a new show? Is it him saying that he likes the setting on Tegrity Farm? Simply him saying he likes making episodes on the setting of Tegrity Farms rather than South Park? Or maybe there's just nothing to it other than Randy saying that he's going to blow up South Park because all he cares about is his new home on the farm.
I heard of it. I thought of it as like it's bad marketing. Like Towley's just telling him like, you don't want to say that. Like that's not going to be good for sales.
Because those are his customers too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought it was sort of that, or sort of like the like kind of callous rich guy-ness of like, who cares about the people who buy my shit as long as they buy my shit, or also the like beginnings of Randy becoming Joker. Which, by the way, that's part of why I think this episode is really funny, is it also played on, although not super explicitly, this like weird fear of the Joker. This like the fact that like everyone's so scared of how twisted it is that a man could think crime is funny. And I really love that
I was just gonna
riff.
say
I mean,
that.
obviously there is some like actually like weird intel stuff happening about like maybe the incels are going to wage war on the movie theaters.
I was
weird military
hesitating.
report came out.
Yeah, I was hesitating to bring that up because it's like not really a fear that I want to perpetuate, but I have seen headlines that seem to indicate that, oh man, some people are nervous about going to the theater to see the Joker movie because they think there's going to be some Aurora type shit to happen.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is like a bigger conversation, obviously, but to me, I think that like writing off these like incidents of social violence as because of the Joker is crazy, because there's obviously like much more significant causes than the Joker. But also the Joker as a rallying point for these kind of things is kind of a real thing, so it's kind of a hard thing to balance. But I did like that the show kind of played on the fact that like the scariest thing in the world right now within the discourse is just the Joker.
But like the Mexican Joker, like combining two like insane cultural anxiety, like cultural flashpoints right now.
Like cultural like boogeyman types into one thing.
Exactly. The Mexican and the Joker.
Yeah,
for sure.
The scariest thing to like a mom in Wisconsin.
like the ice guards instantly got why that was like
terrifying.
Yeah,
it was the perfect example
for
Kyle to bring up.
Is funny.
Even though the Joker is the one character that doesn't have a concrete backstory, and there really doesn't seem to be. And I don't know, maybe this is just because we're about to get a version of the Joker with a concrete backstory, but usually the character has no real reason for doing the things that he does, or at least it's kept deliberately vague.
Is it a comment on the movie coming up? Like the idea that
probably,
the film is so...
It's probably in the zeitgeist,
Yeah,
and so that's why they did that.
It's so... this film seems to really be diving into a backstory for the Joker.
Yeah.
And... clearly, like, it seems like there is no rhyme or reason. Like, the people who are going crazy are not.
Yeah, well, that's
in that typical backstory.
The episode seems to be getting at, right? Is that this, like Jared said, this is like the first Joker thing with like where the backstory is the main thing, and like where we care about the Joker's backstory, and the Joker's backstory may or may not theoretically justify the Joker's actions. Boy, I hope it doesn't, or at least like aspire to do so. And so like this is kind of riffing on that idea that like there's like a coherent backstory for a Joker, and you can have a like thing that triggers them in a way that like comic book Joker or like Dark Knight Joker never really had.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the joke of all the stuff that Eric puts in his big gulp. when he puts like a little Mountain Dew, little Coke, little and then he puts some coffee in there.
But then, and he also brings up with the cashier, like, hey, we've got some big problems in this world. And again, he has the cashier has no idea what he's talking about, but this is some real injustice in this world. Cartman also has the same kind of complaints as Randy. And then he's just like, okay, you have a good day, okay? It's this idea of like burying our head in the sand and let's not pay attention to real problems at all.
If I had to guess,
just be pleasant.
So, yeah, I want to move into, unless anything else you guys want to bring up, I want to talk about just people's predictions for what the rest of the season is going to be like.
Well,
Does anyone else have
one quick
Yeah,
hit.
go ahead.
Do you guys think that they were doing a kind of Greta Thunberg riff with Cartman?
Yeah, I felt that for sure. Like making fun of the despairing teenager. I don't know if it landed. I mean, it lands when it's Cartman. I guess I don't get the bigger joke.
Right, like it lands when it's like Cartman only thinks these things kind of insincerely, or like the things he thinks brighten the world are fucked up and terrible. Like that joke lands when he's like, the world is broken except that I can call ice on anyone I want.
I thought the world sucked now.
Like that joke lands, but like the general gist of like child who feels like their world is dying didn't really do much for me.
Yeah, same.
I think that's going to continue. That's my first prediction, is that in the way that in a previous season, Token's life matters is something that Cartman held on to throughout the entire season. I think the whole thing about the world sucking is going to carry on throughout the whole season. Other predictions I have, I think that this one about the detention center is probably going to be a two-parter, and I think they'll probably drop it after that. And I don't know, are there any subjects that you guys think that they're going to tackle this season?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I definitely
if they
agree
bring
with
back...
this idea of like global despair, which seems to be like the prevailing mood of 2019, especially this back half of it. I think is going to be a pretty persistent like target for kind of obvious reasons. I hope that they do more Joker shit. I think that making fun of the idea of the Joker is great and everyone should do it. And I guess my other main prediction is I think that like they're gonna have to like engage with this like impeachment, faux impeachment, bullshit, nonsense, upside down, feckless Democrat situation.
Yeah, I think they're gonna come like when it comes to politics, they're gonna come down on the Democrats instead of coming down with easy shots on Trump.
I mean, it's not like there wasn't a lot going on in the news last season when they completely sidestepped it. So I don't. Part of me thinks that if they do bring up Garrison, they might even do something wild, like retcon it to where Garrison is just a teacher again, or something like that. I don't think they're gonna. I think they've sworn off Trump, and I think they're gonna try to stick to it.
Yeah, I just don't think that it's sort of like what Amanda said. Like, I just don't think that it's gonna be like Trump is dumb. I think it's gonna be like Trump is dumb, duh. But the real people who are fucking everything up are these like people who have just accepted that it's okay and we're not going to do anything about it.
But if they do that, I don't think they're going to talk about Garrison specifically. They're going to do it like they did that episode Double Down and use Cartman as the metaphor or something else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or even like using like witches for the Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
Yeah, they might do
It'll
that.
be a
I just
funny
think that,
metaphor.
Right.
I just think that like they're going to go after like the general spinelessness of people in positions of political power lately. I think that's going to be something that they want to go after, especially because like it seems like that's sort of a thing that they tend to seem to care about a lot. Like the sort of inaction when people want to say like when people claim they're going to do things to help people and then fail to do so, I think is a very South Park thing to sort of rail against.
One other guess I would have is, so first of all, another reason why I think they might evade the politics thing altogether is because they know that next year they're going to be making episodes right in the thick of election season. So they're not going to be able to avoid it next year. So they might as well just chill for now. I think there's going to be some kind of Silicon Valley episode. The way I describe the ethos of Silicon Valley is racing towards the dystopia. So my wish list for a South Park episode would be something like a Zuckerberg character watching Black Mirror and not getting it and thinking thinking that, oh wow, this is a great idea. We should make this. That would be my guess for a South Park episode this season.
What if phone but too much? And then he's like, no, never enough.
Yeah, watching the Bryce Dallas Howard episode and being like, oh, personal rating systems. That sounds like a great idea.
Right.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's more like if maybe a Boris Johnson type character comes into play, someone who's like another crazy sort of leader, and if maybe there's something, I wouldn't be surprised if the environment comes back, maybe an Al Gore like a reprieve,
A man bear pig.
a little. But we've had a lot of him already.
Yeah,
But
we had 2 episodes last season, and they've already done Bezos to death.
I mean, this is obvious, but there's going to be a lot of evil white men, like for sure.
Oh, maybe comedy
That's
specials
just
too.
ambiently
Maybe
true.
like maybe someone like a Chappelle type character, kind of shocking the system might be very South Parky.
I
feel like
would
if they were
I would
gonna
actually
do
be very
that, they-
curious to see what their Chappelle episode is like, because like it's funny because that stand-up special is very funny to me because like the shit he says is a lot of like sort of classically annoying rich guy shit. And isn't that funny, but it's also shit that does kind of align with South Park's general practices. but also stuff South Park calls people out for. So it's like very in like the middle ground. Like it's a real edge case for how they'd approach it. And I would be very interested to see how they do that.
I just think if they were going to do that, they would have done that this episode, because ICE is something that would have been relevant, whether it was episode 1 or episode 10, whereas the Chappelle and the Bill Burr thing, that's out now, that's hot now, may not be really talked about much more in a couple weeks.
I think they'll do something with call-out culture, with like you do one thing wrong and you're just dead to the world.
But they did that last year with the problem with Apu.
Oh, sure. You're right.
To be fair, also, this is my new main take, is that cancel culture is not real. And the only person who's ever gotten canceled is Colin Kaepernick.
Whoa.
That's my blazing hot take of the week.
That is
although
pretty
is
blazing.
a Nike ad getting canceled? I mean, no, like he couldn't. I get it for sure.
Yeah, but he's the only one who like couldn't go back to his job. Like Louis C.K. is doing sets, Aziz Ansari's doing sets with Spike Jonze. Like,
you're absolutely right.
All right, guys, we're going to move into the mailbag. So hit us up at southpark@wisecrack.co.
And we're so happy to be back, by the way. So
we've got a mailbag.
Yeah, and thank you.
Yeah. Did you already pull the question? There was one I got this morning.
Yeah, I got one from Jacob La Riviere.
Yeah, go for it, Lux.
It's my pen name.
Yeah, it's a very good name. However, it came to be. And Jacob says, "Hey Wisecrack, Jake here, and I just want to say I think the season premiere was awesome. South Park has never so successfully made me feel so uncomfortable while laughing my butt off. I think the angle they took on the separation of families at the border is definitely one being overlooked, and that it definitely seems like a breeding ground for people with a bone to pick with the government. Also, what do you think is going to happen to Kyle, Cartman, and the other kids at the detention center, since there doesn't appear to be anyone left to guard them? Will they do a soft reset like they were doing last season, or do you think they'll run with it? Love your podcast. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this season. Jake."
You know, if they did just reset it, I guess it would kind of work. We could assume that just by converting all the kids to Judaism, that they were able to get free. I suppose that would be enough.
Or just like a line where they're like, "Well, all the guards were dead, so we left."
Yeah, but then there's also, where's Ike? How is Kyle going to connect with his parents? Where are the parents? I think there's probably too much open-ended there, or too much potential to talk about, especially like what's the parents' experience like.
Right.
So I think it's at least going to be a two-parter.
They said you'll be back together by Monday, and of course Kyle's mom is like, "Monday?" And it ends up being 2 weeks. He's like, "We've been here for 2 goddamn weeks." Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I did like the sort of like breeding ground for enemies idea. I do also think that like that's like pretty low on the list of why you shouldn't put people in camps.
Exactly.
Is my other thing. I think there's like a lot of better reasons why it's a bad idea.
I feel like they could have emphasized that more. I think they hinted at it when Kyle was like, that's not what I meant. I was just trying to make you understand. But like, yeah, like the obvious reason is because it's fucking wrong.
Yeah, it's because it's super duper evil.
Yeah.
But I did like that sort of like weird hyper utilitarian, like the way we used to talk about like stuff in Afghanistan logic being applied to the detention centers as like the only thing that got through to these like fucking idiot guards. I thought was
totally
kind of made sense in a certain kind of way, and I did kind of like that, even though it's not like my ethical priority.
Right.
There was that one joke that I don't even know if I really got it. I think maybe it was just sloppy, but it was when they find out that Kyle is Jewish, they say, "We don't want to have him here because then we'd be racist."
Well,
yeah.
right.
I think
the idea is that if a bunch of Jewish immigrant kids were in like a detention camp right now, it would there would be no question that it's a concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, well,
that's
see, why didn't they
the
just
idea
say that
like,
instead of saying, "Oh, we're going to be called racist"? Because even if people are being anti-Semitic, they don't really get called racist per se. I didn't understand what exactly was the joke.
Okay, so I think it's a couple layers of shit happening in that line, because I actually really like that part. The first is like that it becomes a question of like race and identity rather than like a quote unquote security question, right? Which is how it's presented right now. Like, we're making America great again, or protecting our borders, blah blah blah. And then the other thing is that like people really get mad when you call them a racist when they're being a racist. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's become like such a word that like people are like, "I can't believe you would ever call me that just because I think slaves are okay." And it's wild. But people treat it that way. And so I think that's more the thing is like, I think they could have used like Nazis there, but I think the bigger flag that bums people out these days. A lot of people just write off Nazi as like, everyone just says that.
I mean,
but like when someone calls someone a racist for being a racist, they get real mad.
it's also like the fact that people could think that the detention camps right now aren't racist somehow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the third layer, is the idea that
Yeah.
like there's anything but it's super racist happening.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, so we also have a voicemail service. Hit us up with your thoughts, comments, questions about this season. If you have any predictions about what it's going to be like, 213-534-8807 or 21-ELF-GUT-07 or ELF-HUT-07. We're going to be covering every
Elf Hut
episode
makes
this
much more
season. Elf-Hut, yeah, where the elves party.
Yeah, no, that like makes a lot more sense than Elf Gut. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
but that just like struck me like
No.
a lightning bolt.
Well, they go to Elf Hut for some
Elf Hut.
pizza and they fill up their elf gut.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Until next time,
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
peace.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.